Yeah, friends, it is that time of year again where we do a annual Q&A. I love that it's now a thing. All right, so anyways, cue the intro for 2023 end of year Q&A. Go!
It's the end of the year.
Before we get started, thank you so much for everyone who took the time to send in a question. We did them through Instagram and through YouTube comments, so thank you for every single one of them. I hope I have them all down. I have my laptop with me, so I'm gonna read them from here. Second thing is I'm gonna write every question on like a little card in between each answer, but I'm gonna keep them relatively short because I'm trying to concise this video for this year. So if you need more time to read the question, you can just pause the video and then go on to the answer. And with that, let us begin. I am originally from Slovenia. It is a tiny country in Europe. It's shaped like a chicken, very true. It is nestled between Italy and Austria, and it only has 2 million people living in it. And I grew up in the capital, in Ljubljana, and I lived there until I was 14. And then that year, my family, so my parents and my brother, moved to California, to the Bay Area. And so now we live in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. I get my clothes from everywhere. I don't know, I've always had a huge love for fashion, for expression through clothing. I always like to match clothing with wherever I'm going. And I think it goes back to me just like trying to turn my life into a movie musical. And I think clothing is a big part of completing that illusion. So what was the question? Oh, where do I get my clothes? Everywhere. A lot of it is Zara, Urban Outfitters, and then some smaller brands like Sister Jane, Damson Matter from the UK, Lisa Says Got, and then a big one lately has also been Hill House. I absolutely love their dresses. They're the most beautiful, timelessly designed dresses. I am currently not planning any in-person meet and greets or anything like that, but that is so sweet that you would even consider coming to something like that. Thank you so much. And I seriously mean it. That's like, thank you. That's crazy. But idea, maybe we can do like some sort of a live video here on YouTube or on Instagram and we can chat that way. I feel like that's the easiest way to connect without having to be there physically in person. But I don't know, let me know what you guys think. We can do like a Zoom meeting, Instagram live, YouTube live. Comment below if you have any ideas. I am totally open for that. That would be absolutely incredible to meet you guys. You are the best. Oof. I like just like nasty desserts, you know, like nothing simple, like, oh, blueberries with something. No, like double chocolate chip cookies or brownies, or actually speaking of, I just yesterday with my mom, well, mainly my mom was making it, I was just kind of there for the vibes, but we were making peppermint chocolate chip, dark chocolate, whatever, cookies from Trader Joe's. We basically bought the mix and then we added eggs and oil and that was it, but they're so good. So like this time of year, peppermint chocolate, that's the way to go. I think one of my favorites would probably be just going around to see the lights. That's something that we didn't used to do as much in Slovenia. When we were back there, we would go to see nativity scenes in different churches, because that was a big thing. Like, because Slovenia is primarily Roman Catholic, and they're very intense and elaborate about their nativity scenes, and they would like put up these massive displays, and it was really magical to see. They're like tiny villages almost. But here, I think we love looking at all the lights and Christmas trees, and every year we try and find a new place where we find online that they have really nice lights, and we try and see that. Also, our tradition that we started a few years ago was that we go to the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco, and they have this giant life-size gingerbread house that they put up, and that's been really fun because the hotel is super fancy. Like, you never stay there; it's so expensive, but it just makes you feel like Eloise at the Plaza in San Francisco. My favorite question. Yes, there's absolutely a theme. I have the first song already done. I actually just got off the call with the guitarist, with Victor, who was recording the guitar for that song. I wrote this one back in July, and that's also sort of when everything started coming together. I love creating these themes because I grew up around a lot of musicals. I think musicals in general are just one of the most magical mediums of art. I just think there's such a, they really make you see the world in a more sparkling, dazzling way, which I absolutely love. Some people hate musicals, but I personally just adore them. They're so magical. You can see by my smile, I'm just like giddy, just thinking about it. And so I use a lot of formatting that musicals use in when I release my own songs, because I try to capture some of that. I try to make it a bigger experience or immersion than just the song. So I will definitely continue doing the themes. I have the theme figured out for next year. I'm very excited about it. But I do think that next year's theme will actually be 2024 and 2025. I think it'll be a 2-year project and then do an album at the end of 2025. So that's currently the plan. We'll see. But I got the idea when I was playing an acoustic show in San Francisco at a bookstore in the Italian district, and it just like everything came together in that moment. So I'm very, very excited. January 2024, baby. I do. So I'm fluent in Slovenian. I grew up speaking Slovenian. We still speak it at home. So Slovenian and English are my primary languages. I speak a little bit of French, but very little. But yes, I actually, fun fact, I actually did record a song in Slovenian because not more than a few years, it was like probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I went there to do like a Slovenian song festival. And I recorded one of my songs in Slovenian. It's called zdaj. And you know what? Thinking about this now, I'm gonna link it below to the performance because it's all in Slovenian. So I basically took one of my songs that I wrote originally in English, and then I wrote the Slovenian lyrics for it. They're not at all a direct translation. They're a completely different song, lyrically, thematically. Like, they're not at all related. Just the melodies and the production are the same. Oh, it means the time is now, basically. So I didn't fully start producing out my own songs until last year's June song. That was the first one that I really fully produced all by myself. I use Logic. I realized that something that really helps with the process is that I produce it in my head before I ever sit down and open up Logic. So I usually always write the song first on piano only. I've yet to write a song after I produce it, like that I would just produce a beat and then write over it. Usually it always starts with lyrics, melody, piano, chords. That's it. And then I sort of sit with that song for a while, and then I start thinking of ways to produce it. And it really depends. Sometimes already as I'm writing it, I have an idea of what it will sound like produced, and sometimes it's an exploratory process. And then I do this a lot when I'm taking a shower. Like I'll add in instruments in my head. And then once I have it pretty much fully fleshed out in my head, that's when I start opening up Logic and actually producing it. Just step-by-step stuff. I usually start with the chords first. So I just lay down a very basic MIDI piano with just chords, like the piano not playing anything fancy. Unless it's a piano-focused song, which doesn't happen a lot. I just do chord, A major, whatever, the 1, 4, 5. And then based off of that, I add in a vocal track, which is just a really quick take, just so I kind of see where everything lays to the beat. And then I start building things around that, because oftentimes I found early on when I was starting, I didn't record the scratch vocal, like the demo vocal, until later on in the process. And then I realized the production was way too full because the vocal, or it was clashing with the vocal because I didn't have it in. So now the first thing I always do is 1 track of piano, 1 track of demo vocal, and then everything else comes after, because that's your focal point, is your voice, is the lead vocal, and everything that happens underneath it, around it, needs to support that, not detract from it. I do not mix my own songs. I do like a rough demo mix just so I kind of know what I'm doing, but the mixer and the mastering engineer lately has been one of my best friends, Noah Taylor. He is absolutely incredible. He works out of his studio in Colorado, so he mixes all my songs. And live versus MIDI this last year, so everything on the Hopeless Romantic album, strings, bass, and drums were all recorded by 3 different musicians. So this is all stuff that I had in my demo originally, but then those 3 musicians went back in and sort of like added live elements to it. So those were the 3 things that were added live. The only song that had an extra live element was Poetry, that had live guitar in it. But this is usually, I have a MIDI version of that in my original demo, but then I send it to them and they make it better, because that's what they do. They're amazing. And so they really help build out the song and make it feel more alive, as opposed to everything just being very much to the grid and stiff. But usually synths, piano, all of that stays the way that I have it in my session, just because I play piano. I know that stuff, hopefully. Oh my gosh. Me and my brother have been talking a lot about going to Japan, just like a tour of Japan, not just Tokyo, but like the countryside, the mountains, the onsen bathhouses, all of that. So I think that's been a big thing on my to-do list. But also, I've been obsessing over the Murder at the End of the World TV show that is taking place in Iceland, and it's making me just long to go to Iceland and Scandinavia in general, like Norway, the fjords, all of that. So yeah, let's say Scandinavia / Iceland and Japan. That'd be so fun. Yes, I would love to, but I think later on. I want to have more reach, more of a base. Like I want to first get more, how to say it, a better foundation with my music before I start writing out a musical. But yes, that is definitely a lifetime bucket list item to do. It would be a huge challenge, but I'm always excited when something is difficult because it means I'm growing and I'm learning something new. So big yes to that one. I absolutely always pre-plan. I never write a song and then just kind of, or not write a song, release a song and then figure it out as the year goes on. I would say like 95% of the stuff figured out before going into the year. Simply because there's so much pre-planning that takes with the songs. You know, there's so many people involved, from musicians to the artwork designer, Vida Igličar. Like there's so many people that need to have information ahead of time in order for things to come together in the end. Usually I start working on a song at least 2 or 3 months before its release. And so but when it's a theme, when I need to figure out a brand new theme for the year, I start, like this year I started 6 months earlier. So I started back in June and July that I really started actively thinking about this, because it might seem a little wild, but I like time to process things and to think about them and to sort of encounter them in different moods, in different environments, in order to really test the fact that this is something that I can stick to. You know, I want to make sure that it's so solid that I'm confident in staying with that theme, with that style, production style, visual style for an entire year, or in this case for the next project for 2 years. So I really need to be confident that it's going to stand the test of time, but also the test of moods, you know, or seasons. So those are all things that I take into consideration. So that's why it helps that I start early, that I can really flesh it all out. Start with a storyline. Like I want to have some sort of a storyline direction for the song. And I always like to think that I need to be able to give you this, the idea for the project in an elevator pitch. Like if I can't concise it down into a 30-second pitch, then I have no clue. Like then I need to work on it more. So it needs to be so clear in my head that I can put it together, give you a quick pitch, and you know exactly what that is going to be. Very much like a business idea. I think every year's this themes and the songs are sort of like their own little mini musical business ideas. So that's how I try to approach it. And I use a lot of inspiration from films, from Pinterest. Sometimes just scrolling through Pinterest helps me to see new ideas for visuals, to see what other photographers or even influencers, fashion brands are working on. I like to be exposed to as much content as possible, or at least content in the niche that I know I'm looking for, because then that gives me ideas to start thinking, kind of take that as a starting off point and go from there. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is an awesome question. It's funny, I don't consider myself to be creative. I think I'm very strategic in everything that I do. Like I'm not very spontaneous. I will never just like sit around and just like write a song out of nothing. I always need to know what the song is going to be about. It's very interesting. It's like I've never considered myself to be a creative person, so it's very interesting to hear that. I always try to be very planned, strategic about everything that I do. I think part of the reason why I do a lot of different genres is because I'm relatively new to production, but also because I have a lot of different influences. I grew up listening to classical music, playing classical music. Then I did a lot of musical theater and jazz when I was in high school. And I didn't really start getting into like pure pop, like Taylor Swift pop, until I was in my early 20s. So I think I'm drawing from a lot of different places, I guess, when I'm listening to a lot of different music, but also I always like to do something new and try something different. If not for anything else, just to explore it and to learn something new. So I think that's why I'm always driven or interested in creating something that's a little bit different than what I've already done. I don't like to be too repetitive just for the sake of entertaining myself. But yeah, and I think I love working on this. I love keeping myself occupied with this because it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like fun and getting to write the soundtrack for my life. And I don't you guys are enabling this. So thank you for continuing this illusion. This is amazing. Fandom name. That is such a cool question. I have never thought about it, honestly. Although, you know what? No, that's a lie. When I was like 15, I was like, you know what is the way to get famous? I'm just gonna email Universal Music Records, or like what was the other one? Capitol Records. And I said, oh, I am like a singer, and I call my fans peacemakers. I had 0 fans at that point. My fans were my parents. And so I would like email Capitol Records and Universal Music Group. I mean, those emails went down the drain. I don't think anyone ever saw them. But I was like, hey, and like part of my pitch was that I call my fans peacemakers. Let's leave it at that. I don't know. I have no ideas. Comment below. Oh my gosh, if you have any suggestions. I don't have anything. Peacemakers. Just not peacemakers. That is just... Oh my gosh. I just have a very privileged life. I don't know. I'm not in denial about that. I have a great supportive family. I get to do what I love. I have people like you who listen to my songs so that I can keep working on them. You know, I have a beautiful working environment. So I just feel incredibly fortunate. And even though I sometimes get annoyed because maybe my music isn't growing as fast as I would want to, or I'm not yet where I thought it would be at this point, but then I have to take a step back and remember and see all the incredible things that are in my life, that I get to do in my life, and you guys are a big part of that. So I think it's hard not to be positive and excited about life when this is part of it. So thank you. Yes, piano was absolutely my first intro to music. So growing up, when I was just a little tiny girl, I would constantly perform around the house. I would make people like look at me. I was like just so desperate for attention, like dancing, performing and singing. And so my mom was like, all right, okay, you want to do music? Let's put you into classical piano, which was kind of the de facto thing to do in Slovenia. And so I started when I was 6. And it's funny, for the first 3 years, I did not like it. I wanted piano, I wanted to do violin, I wanted to do the flute, all of that stuff, anything but piano. But my mom was like, no, you have to keep going with it. She was actually pivotal in keeping me in piano. If she had let me make my own choices when I was 7, which, you know, truly at 7, you have all the possible information you could need to make a very impactful life decision. So if she had let me switch at that point, God knows what would have happened. I don't know if I would have done music now, but I had this incredible teacher, piano teacher, Anja Maria, that I stayed with for all of 9 years that I did piano in Slovenia. And I think she was another huge key part of the reason of why I stuck with music and why I really wanted to do it. She just showed me the emotion and the magic that is hiding behind the black and white keys of the piano. And as cheesy as that sounds, or like just the music, just seeing what an incredible vehicle for translating and sharing the human experience music can be. And I think that was a huge part of why I then ended up wanting to do music full time. Paris, I fantasize about this all the time. It's so funny because I grew up in Europe and now I want to go back there. But you have to remember, or I have to remember that when I was in Europe, I never got to really experience it as an adult. You know, we left it when I was 14. So I was just barely a teenager. So I never really got to like fully live out the European lifestyle, you know, like going to cafes and biking around and taking public transportation. Like it was all the kind of, I never got to see that part of it. And so I would love to live in Paris for a year. And it's still a huge dream of mine. Hopefully I get to, you know, it comes true one day, and then I would travel to the Kotar in Provence, and I would take the train to London, and I would be I would see Ireland and Scotland, and oh, can you see how excited I am? I hope that happens, because that would be magical. Oh my God. Anyways, let's keep going because I'm gonna get carried away. Another theme/song question for next year. Yes, absolutely will do. It's theme, more songs, probably a 2-year project. First song will come out, the way that it's looking right now, end of January. We're finishing up the cover artwork for it right now. I have the visualizer filmed for it actually already. I filmed it like back in October, so it's been done for a while. I wanted to get it done early because I knew right away what I wanted it to be, and I'm very excited. It's going to be visually different than what it was this year. It's sonically different, and the first song is probably the most personal song I've ever released, lyrically especially. So it's gonna be fun. Favorite underrated brands. There's two that I think of. Like most of the stuff that like places where I buy clothes are pretty mainstream, not gonna lie. I'm not privy to like the cool indie brands as much, but two that I'm surprised are not bigger. One is Dance and Matter, and they're both British brands. And then Sister Jane. I have no clue how they're not more popular because the prices are so affordable considering what you get for your money. The detailing of the dresses is incredible. Like most of my dresses that I wear in visualizers are all from Sister Jane. They're just so magical. They look like they would be thousands of dollars, but they're not. So I'm obsessed with them. They're just absolutely beautiful, and it like perfectly aligns with my aesthetic and vibes too. So maybe that's why I'm so excited. My birthday is May 25th, 1997. My work never feels like work, like music stuff. So I never feel like the need to have hobbies because music in a way fills that spot already. But I love to read. I love science fiction. Love. Or like science fiction TV shows. The Expanse, For All Mankind, anything science fiction I'm obsessed with. And then Sims. I don't even have all the expansion packs, but I just love it. And it's funny too. Like I don't use it to do anything crazy. I just live out like this peaceful, perfect suburban life. I always have a wife and a husband, and then they have kids. And then the kids do really well in school, and they have a nice little garden, and everything's perfect. Like that's what I do in The Sims. Nothing wild. And I build. I love to renovate houses in The Sims. And then it's so funny. I just live out life. I don't know why I find it fun, but I find it very calming and peaceful, especially building in The Sims. And like when I need to to take some time off, or like if I had like a stressful day or something, I'll just like go and renovate a house in The Sims. It's like one of my favorite things to do. But yeah, that's it. My friends, we got through all of them. Thank you once again for sending over all of these, for taking the time to think of them, to type them out. It means the world. Thank you for sticking around for another year, for listening to the songs. I hope they have been able to soundtrack at least a tiny little fraction of your life this year. I hope that you take some time this December to look back on your year and try and find some spots of brightness, some things that you're really excited that you were able to achieve, or that you're grateful that you got to experience. And then I'm very, 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 very excited to share with you what's coming up next year. And hopefully you get to stick around for that as well. Happy holidays. Have the most incredible end of year 2023, and I'll see you in 2024.